We overpraise balance when greatness actually demands imbalance. It's this thought I heard about this morning when I was training on my bike, listening to Chris Williamson's podcast. And him and Matthew McConaughey went very deep into this whole concept and this whole notion about how the world praises balance, preaches balance, but in reality, greatness demands imbalance. And what I was really hit with when I was listening to this is this whole concept that Chris Williamson talked about, which is praise the rise, don't praise the result. What he means by that is you have to study the rise of the people that you look up to. You can't study their results. So often in life, I find myself looking at people's results, at people's life, at where they've arrived at, and I find myself envious is a word I would use, and dreaming of having the opportunity to one day have that result and one day have that life. But in reality, there is really no lessons to be learned from the result or the life that they're living. The lessons to be learned for somebody like me, grinding, fighting, clawing, sacrificing my way to achieve the life that I desire for me and my family, is to actually study the rise. And the cool part about that, when I was doing my work this morning, 5 a.m., hitting a 60-minute cycling session, is I recognized that most people aren't willing to make the sacrifices in the moment to achieve the results that they desire. And I just felt grateful for that. I felt grateful for that because it gives me an unfair advantage. Somebody who wasn't gifted with a big brain, somebody who wasn't gifted with incredible size or incredible athleticism, it gives me an unfair advantage to go out and compete with those that are more gifted, more talented than me, because what I have that they don't is I am willing to sacrifice and work far harder than they are to achieve the results that we both desire. If you look at pretty much any influencer, speaker, author, all of them preach this concept of balance. And I think balance is a beautiful concept in theory, but I don't think it's practical. I think if we chase balance, what we're ultimately going to find is we're going to find a dissatisfaction for the life that we're living. Because in a sense, achieving balance requires us to sacrifice some of our desires. Now, there are moments in your life where I think doing that is important. But when I reflect on the journey that I've been on, the journey of the ranch, the journey of being a CEO, the journey of trying to accomplish really hard things for really meaningful causes, bigger than myself, I reflect on how often I sit and think about the result of it all, what it will feel like, what it will look like, what that experience is going to be like. And when I think about those things, it almost allows me to live in this delusional state and not pay attention to the work that will be required to get there, to the effort that I'm going to have to put in, day out, to achieve the life that I desire. I think when I look at my daily life, when I think about the choices I'm making day in and day out, the thing that I'm most grateful for is my ability to do what most others aren't willing to do. And that comes from a few things. First, I think it's something that my parents ingrained in me from a very young age. I'll never forget my dad talking about how the Marines and the people in the military, they don't get sick days. They don't call in for work when it's snowing. And so every single day, that man drove to work 30 minutes one way to be in the office. It didn't matter if there was a foot of snow on the ground. It didn't matter if he was sick as a dog. He showed up day in and day out. And I saw that. I also heard it, but seeing it taught me far more than hearing it ever did. It showed me that that's the way you live your life. That's the way you lead. And that's the way I still take things today. I don't call in sick from work. I don't take off on most traditional holidays. Now I have a family, and my family is very important to me. So I do make sure I spend time with them, but I make sacrifices to still accomplish the things I need to accomplish in work or for my health or for my relationships, even if it's a holiday, even if I'm sick. And the balance comes from my willingness to make sacrifices. Yeah, you could argue that I'm out of balance because I'm not getting sleep, but I would argue that the only way to fit everything into a day that I want to fit into a day is to sleep less. And when I look at all of the studies that are being done on longevity and health, lifespan, health span, a lot of the correlation to your quality of life is in direct proportion to the quality of your sleep. But I also recognize that there's only one opportunity to live. I think. Maybe we get another chance. But I truly think we only have one chance at this life. And I'm in a season of life right now where I am sacrificing sleep. And I've been fortunate or blessed to be a human that doesn't need a ton of sleep to function at a high level. But still, I probably would say my average night of sleep is somewhere between 5.5 and 6.5 hours. Some nights it's as little as 4 hours, because I have a dream, I have goals so inspiring, but I also have a family. I also have my health. I also have my wife, my relationships, my friends. All of those things are equally important to me. And so when people look at my life, they would say that I'm living out of balance. I'm over-serving certain buckets, overfilling them. And I would argue that I'm doing it because I recognize that there is no such thing as balance. The framework I use when I think through balance is I think of how an eagle soars. An eagle soars with two wings. An eagle finds their path to food or their nest or their resting spot and then uses their wings to soar. I think of my life as the nest or the food in the eagle's eyes. And that's my vision. That's where I'm trying to go. Every single day, I have the ability to choose at what angle will I put both of my wings. Do I need to spend a little bit more time and energy on my health? Do I need to focus a little bit more intentionally on my wife or my children? Do I need to grind a little harder at the office and put in that extra hour or two to get through the project or the emails or the thoughts? And so my sense of balance is there is no balance. I think the beauty of life, as Matthew McConaughey so well said, is finding the rhythm and the rhyme in the imbalance, finding the beauty in it. Don't get lost over glorifying this concept or this notion of balance, is the message I tell myself many days, because I am on a mission to live a life that I truly dreamed of and also still question if it's truly possible. But who am I to not try to pursue it? Who am I not to go after it? Who am I to sit by and worry and obsess over this notion of balance when I have an opportunity day in and day out to make my dreams a reality? It's amazing how much wisdom can be found through the lens of other people. And what I mean by that is, listening to podcasts, you're able to hear two people's unique perspective. Now, a lot of people in the podcasting world are media trained and talking heads and just kind of regurgitate information. But when you listen to a guy like Matthew McConaughey and Chris Williamson have a deep, authentic, meaningful conversation for almost 2 hours, there is literally wisdom in almost every single sentence that they share. There is literally beauty in every single word that they use. And the coolest part about it, when you listen to those authentic humans, at least as I define them, is they're not trying to glad hand. They're not trying to BS it. They're sharing their life's perspective from their experiences, from their firsthand knowledge. And I think Matthew McConaughey does an incredible job of sharing his experiences during the rise. Not the reward, not the arrival, but the rise. I am obsessed with studying people. I think people are fascinating, but I also think when you study people, you can learn a ton of things that you need to be aware of in your pursuit of whatever success looks like for you. Some people, it's money. Some people don't care at all about money. It doesn't matter. Every single one of us has a different definition of success. And while pursuing that, if we study humans that have achieved the result we desire, but don't get lost in the result and study their rise, we can learn how to make choices, how to take actions, how to make decisions in adversity, in the chaos of life, and learn from their lessons, their failures, their missteps, and maybe avoid a landmine or two along our journey. We got a problem in this world. We over-obsess with balance, when in reality, greatness demands imbalance.